and welcome to Carnival Time from the heart of the Caribbean, Port of Spain in Trinidad and Tobago. I'm Mishron Robinson, and in 25 minutes, I will tell you about the mix of cultural resistance and celebrations in countries like Uruguay, Spain, Colombia, and right here at home in Trinidad and Tobago. Let's begin. Uruguay's Carnival, the largest in the world, spans more than 40 days between January and March, transforming the streets of Montevideo into a vibrant scene. What makes it unique is the fusion of African, European, and local influences. Our correspondent in Montevideo tells us it's this way.
Romina
is responsible for the makeup of an emblematic murga of Uruguay, mushroom tanners. In the evening, this murga, born in 1912, will make its presentation on the stage of the Primero de Mayo Square. There they will test the result of months of rehearsals of artists, lyricists, designers, and costume designers who will have to synthesize in a face with a makeup that symbolizes this popular festival.
We think that the design has a link with the textual, that is to say that it follows the idea of the murga and then also has the aesthetic link with the costumes, that is to say that the colors are respected, that it also follows the line that the costume designer worked on so that everything has a little coherence and everything is quite closed.
Both the makeup and the costume design of a murga are a complex task. Both must reflect the main concepts of the text to be sung during the show, as explained by Mavi Amigo, the costume designer of another of Montevideo's main murgas, the Madrugada.
First of all, the text is fundamental to begin to understand what the murga wants to tell, what it wants to say, and what it wants to talk about that year, and that is the first great input from which we base ourselves to begin to build the translation of the text into something visual, that in this case is carried on the body, which is the costume.
In this case, the Murga Madrugada chose to talk about everyday contradictions with their show Yes, But No.
This year's show is called Yes, But No, and it was important to reflect on some of this concept, which is very open in the costumes, and the tourists were making different presentations of where the idea was going, and then they were refining from drawings and a little down to earth, then with fabric samples, what they were thinking.
The Uruguayan Carnival is considered the longest in the world because it begins in early January and lasts until mid-March with shows where murgas and comparsas compete in an official tournament, although there are also popular stages in the neighborhoods. Originally it lasted 3 days and coexisted with other artistic expressions. Still, over the years it was merged and extended in time to become a long popular theater festival that reflects social changes and new ways of understanding tradition.
If one had to define the Montevidean Carnival of today, it is above all a great festival of popular and street theater, where some very characteristic ingredients of the classic carnival symbolism have been left by the wayside, with changes that occur at the level of society, and the carnival, logically, to stay alive, has to accompany these changes in the way of living and feeling of the city that stars in it.
On this stage of the Primero de Mayo Square, the singing and applause of the spectators accompany the murguero rhythm. In each painted face, in each costume, and each verse, you can feel the culture of a people that leaves everything behind and surrenders every February to the reign of the god Momo.
Mateo Grille, Telesur, Montevideo, Uruguay.
In February, Cadiz dresses in satire and color for its carnival, one of the most famous in Spain. The streets and the Gran Teatro Fala burn with chirigotas and comparsas, groups that sing biting truths about politics and daily life, wrapped in melodies and extravagant costumes. Sergio Rodrigo tells us more.
Cadiz, gateway to Europe, seaworthy Cadiz, Andalusian corner and cathedral of Carnival. This winter festival celebrates life, meat, and freedom before Lent, but in this Andalusian richness it is the seat of social criticism.
In the second half of the 19th century, the groups were originally free. The groups arrived on carnival days and went out into the streets to sing what they wanted because we knew that there were already political issues because censorship began to be created. Who creates censorship? Who creates the contests? Well, the foreign ministers, the mayors, because what they are singing in the streets is annoying. So what is the political social criticism comes practically from its birth, not in this form of carnival, and has had moments of boom and more difficult moments.
The Gran Teatro Falles is the temple of the Andalusian Carnival. This is where all the groups want to participate. Jonah's group was one of the finalists in the previous contest. Its lyrics are satirical and critical, part of the struggle of a people that makes its voice heard every February.
It's a festival that is born from the people for the people, and is a time of the year in which we claim through copla. Well, it's to feel not of those working classes that gave rise to popular festivals and that. And well, it's a unique moment, in which anything goes, in which so much irony.
The couplet is the essence of this carnival, but the characterization and costumes are the common origin of this festivity.
When the curtain opens, although this is a music contest in lyrics, in the end, visually, the first thing you do is look at the face of the person. So we have demonstrated in more than one equation that a good makeup is a good staging, and a good costume will always give you more points and will always bring you much more. There are groups that are very good, but they have made a mistake with the makeup or the costume, and in the end you liked it a lot, but you did not like it, or you do not like to see it visually.
The great moment arrives, after months of preparation, rehearsal, and hours of work. The great moment of stepping on the boards of the Cathedral of Carnival arrives. The Carnival of Cadiz is the cradle of political, social, and cultural criticism that is addressed through witty and biting lyrics, which comment on and satirize from local to global issues. The origins of the Cadiz's carnival go back centuries, but the Civil War and the Franco dictatorship left Cadiz without carnival for a decade.
In the years of the Second Republic, the contest is strengthened, but the cut comes with the Civil War. The dictatorship bans first in the year 37 in the middle of the war, and then when the war ends in the year 39, and what was going to be the Carnival of 1940 is born, or was going to be the Carnival of 1940. There comes the total prohibition, which is not for Cadiz. The total prohibition is for the whole of Spain, and there practically all the carnivals that existed in this country were lost.
As every February, the Falla opens its curtain to welcome the couplets, heritage of culture, home of irony and wit that every year sings from the people to the people.
Declared Intangible Cultural Heritage of Humanity by UNESCO in 2003, it takes place every year before Lent. For 4 days, the streets are filled with parades, music, cultural dances such as cumbia and doodle, colorful costumes, and the joy of Barranquilla people. The Battle of Flores, the inaugural event, marks the beginning of this cultural explosion that exalts the diversity and folklore of our towns.
One of the most representative events in Colombia and of folkloric and cultural transcendence at international level is the Carnival of Barranquilla. Declared Cultural Heritage of the Nation in 2001 and Masterpiece of the Oral and Intangible Heritage of Humanity by UNESCO in 2003. An expression of identity of the Colombian Caribbean whose historical records date back to 1829, generating an essence based on the construction from the popular.
Originally in Barranquilla it was because they let the Afro people go out and make the party, and that is maintained. That is maintained with difficulties. Then the rebellion consists in turning the order upside down. The poor can be king. The marginal woman can be queen, then the established order is transgressed, and that is the extraordinary thing about the carnival.
An event that appropriates the streets of Barranquilla, capital of the Department of Atlántico, which some have wanted to privatize, but which is maintained thanks to the annual work of cultural makers based in the popular neighborhoods of this city. And that enrich with popular music, dances and costumes. Where you cannot miss the iconic characters like La Marimonda, El Garabato, El Monocuco, or dances like El Congo, Las Pilanderas, Las Cumbiambas, among others, which complete the varied repertoire of this important folkloric and cultural event.
The Carnival of Barranquilla has represented all the Spanish influence that we have had during all these times, in addition to the indigenous customs, the customs of the Africans, all those customs of the people, and it has been highlighted during all this time in our dances, in the artistic representations, in the masks, in all the idiosyncrasy of the people of Barranquilla, and everything that one represents through the dance in all its musicality, and through its musical instruments.
This Carnival festival will begin on March 1st and will last until March 4th with the traditional Battle of Flowers, where the floats take the Via 40 and where the queen of this event throws flowers to the attendees. An act that in turn is accompanied by cumbia and dance groups, which have been incorporating new rhythms of popular youth culture but not leaving aside the Afro essence as a cultural component.
There are a couple of urban sounds that have managed to enter this theme of the Carnival of Barranquilla, such as Afrodance and champeta. Champeta is a genre that is brought from the African continent. Comes from the 1600s with all this theme of slavery of blacks. Comes with a type of music called the sukus, all this kind of rituals that blacks did in the theme of slavery.
Days of a wide cultural display that shows the traditions and roots of a region that mixes the idiosyncrasy of the Colombian Caribbean people and the perception of reality and its transformation into art, which ends with the death of Joselito, an iconic character that represents the soul and the enjoyment of Carnival, who is mourned, veiled, and buried, putting an end to this emblematic celebration.
Barranquilla, Colombia.
And today, to end off our program, we're going to talk a little bit about can boule, French for burnt canes, derived from an African term, all part of the integral intricacies of the Trinidadian and Tobago Carnival. I'm Miss Ron Robinson for Tell Us Our English. Until next time, bye! Carnival fever has gripped Port of Spain, but this celebration has deep roots. At dawn, thousands gathered at Piccadilly Greens for the powerful Canboulay riots reenactment, honoring emancipation and silencing oppression. President Christine Kangaloo and other dignitaries joined locals and tourists, witnessing a key moment in Trinidad and Tobago's history. Other important guests included Foreign and CARICOM Minister Amy Brown and Mayor of Port of Spain, Shinoa Aline, alongside numerous government officials and leaders within the Pan-Africanist movement. Mayor Aline spoke with our team from the ground.
A critical part of our history, and I really would like to applaud the playwright, Paul Springer, and the entire team that has put this together for us to help teach ourselves and our children about a critical part of who we are.
The documentation of Canboulay continues to serve as a powerful reminder of Trinidad's enduring struggle for freedom and cultural expression. Springer's powerful reenactment was robustly rooted in the 1881 riots following the 1834 abolition of slavery and its vivid portrayal of the resilience of the nation's ancestors. There's a firm hope that the work of Pearl Springer is in safe hands with the youth who form a part of the critical envelope of the future of Trinidad's orange economy. And as Mayor Aline shares, the support from youth is undeniable.
This is about teaching, this is about celebrating, it's about preserving our culture, and I think it's one of the most successful activities that happens during Carnival.
One of the older heads, Oluke Francis, who's 70 years old, shared that he has been supporting Canboulay since the event started. And even in his old age, there's no stopping him now.
It's a great privilege to see that this has happened and continue to happen.
Francis told our team on the ground with pulsating African drums echoing in the background.
It's a great memorial for us and the tradition of the African people and Trinidad and Tobago. It's a good historical piece of culture that we'll be able to carry on for the legacy of our children and the culture of Trinidad and Tobago.
Francis, a seasoned drummer and man of rhythm himself, had a few words of advice for younger drummers.
They drum too, right? And drum is the spirit of the tambourine, the awakening of the call.
Also taking in the early morning festivities was a watchful and observant Jason Hospitalis. He offered a mouthful of the importance of Canboulay, but from a repertory justice viewpoint.
The importance of Canboulay as it relates relative to reparative justice and the spirit of Carnival as an initiating factor in the Carnival activities, something that is rooted in the liberation, struggle for liberation of peoples of indigenous African descent, you know, under the rule of the oppressive colonial master.
He described the work of the literary creatives as an essential tool for storytelling, but also for documentation and a sharp axe for cutting down stereotypes marked by racism.
Well, art is a tool, a language, a tool that can be used as a language. It's the voice of the people. It's a communicative element, communicative tool that could be used to liberate, motivate people into action in terms of reparations. And
ultimately, the Canboulay Festival proved more than just a historical reenactment. It was a vibrant testament to Trinidad and Tobago's enduring resilience as a people. The festival honored the past by vividly portraying the journey from oppression to freedom. It illuminated the present, reminding all who witness it that the spirit of cultural resistance remains vital in shaping the nation's identity.